Jameson.
Yes, Hannah's joining. She was closing the window because we were getting some weird,
I love it. I hear her coming.
Hello.
Jameson and Hannah, look at you guys. How are you?
Good, how are
Good,
you?
how are you?
Doing great. My gosh, guys. I mean, I can't even like ease into it. What an album that you guys just released. Nowhere else to go, guys. I mean, what?
Yes. Thank you.
Thank you.
I mean, talk about a powerhouse emotional experience, guys. I'm still sorting out my emotions just listening to it the past week. It was wonderful. Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Sorry for the feelings.
Listen, you guys are PhD in feelings. Nothing wrong with that.
I love that.
Yeah, I love it. I love
feeling
it.
that.
Yeah.
And Jameson, I mean, you guys talk about, like, thinking about the songwriting that you guys do and all these songs you guys wrote yourselves. And I was thinking, like, this has to be so satisfying. Like, when you look back on it, it's a special accomplishment that, like, all these songs, you wrote the whole things yourself, right? Like, that's got to be amazing.
Yeah. I think we've both always put a lot of value in, like, to the words that go into a song and all of that. And so I think that's what makes it fun. It makes it hard, but it makes it, like, when you hear it, it's like, oh, this all makes sense.
Big believers
this
in
is what we
storytelling.
wanted it to be.
Totally. And Hannah, obviously you guys had successful careers as solo musicians for a while, for my audience that doesn't know. I mean, you're talking about Jameson had songs on Nashville and the hit TV show. I mean, Hannah, you had some great music as well. You did some theater growing up. I mean, Without Letting Go, for example, we love that album, right? But I have to ask, what was the breakthrough moment in this pandemic, Hannah, where you guys decided, okay, this is the time where we're going to record together? Like, was there a moment, a light bulb moment where it was like, this is it?
Yeah, we had begun writing together years and years ago, and I think we really and truly had nowhere else to go when the pandemic started. And I think, I've always been a writer that I songs just kind of pour out of me from a place of emotion and hardship. And this was really and truly one of the hardest things I think either of us had ever gone through. Music is our life, and we had to kind of put all of the live shows on pause. And so it really kind of forced our focus and gave us the time to create together, which we'd always wanted to do. So it was kind of the perfect moment. Yeah.
Nice, Hannah, for sure. And Jameson, when Hannah says forced our focus, like, I'm curious, like, what a wonderful productive time this must have been. Like once the wheels are turning, I mean, of the project. Like how was a day like? Because I'm fascinated by the process when you guys are like in peak mode. You guys sorted through all the pandemic feelings, and you are like, wake up. How is a day like when you're like in peak productive mode?
Yeah, well, I mean, as far as like the writing part goes, a lot of it, I think a lot of the songs Hannah started writing, and then it's kind of one of those, if I catch her in the first 15 minutes, then I'll be able to contribute to the song. Otherwise, if I don't, it'll be done before I can even get there. Right. So I think I have to be paying attention and listening. And there were definitely some songs where I heard her playing guitar. I was like, oh, cool, I need to go and join in on this and make sure I'm a part of it. But like, I mean, we recorded it all in this room that we're sitting in right now too. And so a lot of that was just like, start in the morning and just kind of hole up during the day and just see what comes out. I think the benefit of doing it at home and not doing it in the studio was we had more time than we normally would have for another project. So like, we'd record something, sit with it for a few days, and then go back. Do we like this? Do we not like it? And so that, there's like a counterbalance there of like, sometimes you need the tight timeline to make the decision quickly, but sometimes, like in this case, this is the most time I think either of us have ever had in a studio setting to really like spend the time. Like, I'm gonna sit and turn knobs on my guitar amp for an hour until I get the sound that I want. But like, I think from that standpoint, it gave us a lot of time to kind of explore, especially with us combining our two styles a little bit. I mean, we recorded Nowhere Else to Go specifically. Once we recorded drums, I think we basically recorded 3 different versions of like, this is what the guitars could sound like, until we really found like, okay, this is like the meet in the middle spot, which is where we landed. But like from a production standpoint, a lot of it was kind of recording stuff, do we like it? Do we feel like it's a good representation of both of us, instead of like, this is my record, so I get to choose what the guitars sound
I get
like,
final
this
say.
is Hannah's record, she gets to choose if the
Right.
guitars are too loud, so we got to do a little bit more of that, like
Yeah.
back and forth, like let's
Co-creating and
Yeah.
making sure it's right for both of us.
yeah
I mean, it's amazing. I'm glad it happened. Obviously, not the right circumstances, but I mean, I think it's one of your career highlights, guys. Just on research your discography, it's just wonderful. And Hannah, and like you've always had a great career, Hannah. I mean, like Know Your Name still sounds, talking about discography, still also sounds super fresh. And
Thank
DCP
you.
is no different. But when you sing these songs, Hannah, and you're hitting these incredibly high notes, are there notes, and don't be modest, that you cannot sing? I feel like every song is within your range. Like just from like listening to
Thank
yourself for
you.
3
So
days,
kind.
you could hit every note if you want, right? Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yes, she
I
can.
try to, absolutely. I think growing up in musical theater, I've always kind of, I've worked on the range.
She's gonna be modest. The truth is that we have to dumb down some of the songs that she sings so that I can sing the harmony to it, because I can't sing some of the stuff that she's trying to do.
Oh my God.
And I'm like,
love
hey,
that, Jameson.
this run you just did needs to have like 3 less notes in it so that I can do it with you.
I love that.
But also that was a great thing to figure out together, of how we're going to make different vocals work here, and different styles and different ranges. So yeah, that was something we had to figure out.
Unbelievable. Yeah, because you can overpower a song, right, James? Like you can do too much, right?
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and she doesn't do it often. A lot of Hannah's runs are really subtle, and you don't notice them until you're trying to sing along. And then when it starts, you're like, oh, that's really like she never does anything that's super over the top. It's always really subtle. But I think that's what makes it so good and so cool, but also so hard for me, who is a little bit more limited in the vocal range. But I think there's some really nice moments in a couple of the songs where it's like, yep, we're just gonna let Hannah do her thing here.
Yeah. No, both of you shine, and we'll get to the songs in just a second. And but yeah, Hannah, I think you once talked about the weird tension of co-creating with the person you love, right? And Jameson, it's a great point that she makes, but there is a rich history of musicians, couples in music. Paul and Linda McCartney, you have Ike and Tina Turner off the top of my head. But how do you keep those lines separate, right? Because I mean, from my experience with marriage, I mean, it was just hard. Like, like if you got the wrong cheese at Kroger, like, and you have a session that night, like, how do you break the lines,
Oh my goodness.
It's hard. I think that one, I think we learned in this record, like, it's okay to step away from songwriting for a little while if you're not in the right space for it. I think there were a couple, I mean, honestly, Nowhere Else to Go is the hardest song for us to do together. Just the writing process behind that one, and the recording process. I think we had to step away from it a few times just because I think there was other stuff going on, and so it impacted our ability to work together. So I think knowing when to call it a day is super important. And like, you don't have to keep pushing just to push. I think that's really important. I think the other thing that we're consistently learning is how to give each other constructive feedback. And like how, because I guess like come from, have had, experiences like playing guitar for other artists and stuff who are like, well, no, I want you to do this, and instead of play what you just played, very like black and white sort of feedback. And so like for Hannah, that's not something that like is very helpful for her. And for me, I love the back and forth, the collaboration, a little bit of like that. You have an idea. No, I have a better idea. Let's go with that. So that back and forth. And so I think we had to learn how to accommodate each other's like feedback preferences, I guess. Feedback process. In a way that we hadn't before, again, because we were going for collaboration instead of like, I have the final say or she has the final say.
We both.
So that was a learning process for sure.
Absolutely.
Nice, nice. But it looks like you guys know how to balance it perfectly. And I mean, Hannah, my audience is going to think you guys are adorable. And I'm sorry to ask this. You guys must answer this every week. But how did you guys meet? Like just like the big old question. How did you and Jameson meet, Hannah?
That's a great question. Yes. We actually met working at a nonprofit in town called Friends Life Community that serves adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So I worked in the special ed world forever. And yeah, it was a really special time for us to meet in a special place. So yeah.
I was working there, and she came in to volunteer, and then I found out she did music and was like, we're gonna write a song together.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
And then that turned into like we clearly wrote more than one song together. So
I weirdly took his job
amazing?
After that.
Amazing. It's when I hear a story like you, Jameson, like, isn't it amazing that like basically two kindred souls like yourselves, with talent, harmonies, like found themselves in the universe this way? It's almost like a miracle, right? It's got to be like 1 in a billion chance.
Yeah, I think especially like, meeting somebody who you're attracted to, and then you find out that you do music. I think for both of us, there's a degree of like, uh-oh, I hope they're good.
Yeah, and you're both like giving back to the community. Like, it's not like you met yourselves at a honky tonk at Kid Rock's in Broadway. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, then there's the like, I hope she's
not
a
that
good
there's anything wrong with that.
And then, yeah. But then I heard Hannah sing, and I was like, oh, she's really good. And so like, there was that fear of like, I as a musician, like, I don't want to marry somebody who's bad at music. Yeah. Who calls themselves a musician, if that makes sense. And then hearing her, it was like, oh wow, I like you a lot, and you're a really great songwriter.
All of a sudden you have to level up, James. Like, I gotta level up,
I had a friend text me after we'd been dating for like 6 months, and there was a friend who had heard some of Hannah's songs, and she texted me and she was like, what's it like to be dating a songwriter who's way better than you?
I was like,
fair.
No.
Lovely. I love it, guys. Oh my God, great story. So let's talk a little bit about the new songs, Hannah, for a second. I mean, my love looks good on you. Love that song. Yeah. And I could talk about all of them, but spectacular love song. But what I like about this one specifically, Hannah, is the way that you and Jameson kind of like really managed to walk that fine line in the middle, right? Because you describe sonically the grayness of love. It's not all roses and sunshine, but at the same time, you don't go one direction or the other. You don't go too sappy, you don't go too heartbreak. You just did it perfect. How do you stay in that lane? How do you stay in that lane?
Yeah, ironically, that song is the second song that we ever attempted to write together, probably about 8 or so years ago. And I really think that song was meant to be. I think that was like the beginning of how we sonically came together as ELDR. And I don't know, it was almost divine to me that we just sat down, and the ideas that we both brought to the table were really similar, and we were just kind of able to tread that middle ground. Yeah, that was a really special song for us, right?
I agree. I think too, I think we wrote the first verse, and then took a couple years off from writing that song. And I think part of that was exactly what you said. Like, we didn't know what the middle ground was.
Yeah,
like, we knew
we had to take some time to figure it out.
Yeah, and I think that we did put a lot of effort into it. I think we wrote a few different choruses for that song because those first few lines felt so right.
Yeah.
To maintain that same through line through the rest of the song, I think was we did a lot of editing, I think, probably more than we normally would on another song, just because like we knew those first couple lines just hit something that I think both of us really, really wanted. And
we wanted to make sure it's preserved throughout the rest of the song. Yeah.
Love that for sure. And another favorite, Coming Undone, Jameson, and in a way, it's like the darkest part of the EP, but to me it works because the rest of the tracks are hopeful, and it's like a comeback. And I love that, the resilience aspect, because it's such a universal theme right now, right? Like coming back from adversity. Is that why you guys kind of opened with that one, like to show like that comeback?
Yeah. So that song we actually wrote the weekend that lockdown went into effect across the country. We were staying up at Hannah's parents' farm in Virginia, and I think we were both just in a really like, what is happening kind of space. And so we wrote that one pretty closely together. over that weekend. And I think we decided to put it first, partly, I mean, I think we tried to avoid that this is a pandemic EP, but I mean, it's a lot of the songs are related to the pandemic and kind of how that impacted our lives. But so I think we wanted to lead off with that to, that the album is about, it draws on a lot of different facets of love. And one of them is like, well, sometimes like stuff just sucks. It's really hard. And we try to communicate that sonically too. Like there's a lot of kind of dissonance in that track.
And it's
like,
a little more stripped down.
Yeah. And there's like notes and chords that like don't belong in the chord to kind of give some tension to it and make it feel a little bit more like it's more dissonant than anything we would normally do.
Nice.
But I think it didn't fit anywhere other than first. It needed to be there to sort of establish like this is the place where this record came from. Beautiful. And then gave us another, like it gave us a direction to go.
Yeah.
Because Nowhere Else to Go is the second track, and that's kind of the second, like, well, I'm coming undone, and then there's nowhere else to go. Like even the song titles themselves kind of have a story to it.
Unbelievable. I mean, you guys are being so good with your time. Thank you. Are you guys in the mood to play a song?
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh my God. What I was crossing my fingers here. Look at that.
Let's do it.
Jameson, can I give you any guitar and you would make it play like sound good? Like, can I just the crappiest guitar and you would make it sound good?
I mean,
I do think you have a talent for that.
Oh, do I? Thank you. I mean, I like playing guitars. My favorite that's all over the record is a $300 guitar I got off Craigslist that was broken when I got it.
Love it.
I love it.
Yeah.
So, you want to play Nowhere Else to Go?
Sure.
Sound good?
Yeah.
Love it.
All right. Well,
sight is a stranger in an unknown land. Gotta fake that I choke hold. Nothing else can get away. Hold on tight, my dear. It's a hill from here. There's nowhere else to go. You don't seem like yourself, but then neither do I. I can't shake this, can't walk it off. It's holding on for life, and I wanna shed this skin. I wanna jump to another frame. Hold on tight, my dear. It's a hill from here. There's nowhere else to go. Rising in the east brings a newness, a clean slate that we desperately need. Well, I'm staring right at it, and you're staring too. Hold on tight, my dear. It's a hill from here. There's nowhere else to go. Hold on tight, my dear. It's a hill from here. There's nowhere else to go.
Unbelievable, guys. Unbelievable. Goosebumps, guys. Thank you so much. That was amazing.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you so much for